Welcome to the Vocal Lab podcast with your hosts Shelby Rollins and Jason Catrone, bringing you the best from the music industry. Get ready for first-class conversations packed with exclusive techniques and transformative insights, all designed to help you reach your top note.
What's up, Jason?
Just hanging with you, Shelby, and the one and only Carlos Santiago.
Carlos from behind the camera is now in front of the camera.
Yes.
Hello, Carlos.
What's up?
Hola.
Hey.
Hola, Carlos.
Hola.
¿Cómo estás?
Yeah.
We're acting like we could carry on with that conversation.
We
That would
cannot.
end
No.
right there, and he knew
Pretty
it.
great.
Graciously, he doesn't hold that against us at all. So,
Right.
unless he does secretly on the inside.
Yeah.
Some of my friends, I'm their favorite Mexican, and they say that. And actually, one of my really best friends, he has me on his phone contact as his brown friend.
Oh my gosh.
And here's the thing. I think
What is wrong?
so. He has Siri announce his
Text.
text. So
Yeah.
when he's in his car, there's two things that happen. Number one, there's the 10 tenors or whatever singing "O Sole Mio." So as soon as he's driving, all of a sudden you hear 10 dudes going, "Oh, no!" And then it says, "Your brown friend is calling." Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And it's the best.
That's hilarious.
And his name is Hans. Shout out to Hans. And so I have him under as my honest German friend. Yeah, so yeah. His dad, Craig
I love
Nelson, an incredible bass player in the session community. So he's played on everything. So
I love it when people can embrace their identities
Yeah.
and not get offended.
Not be so precious about it.
Yeah.
Just be like, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Just have fun with it.
I call it now, I call it like, there's this whole trope when I moved to the States, that
Did you come by a boat?
no, I flew. If I did, I wouldn't.
boy.
Maybe I would have gotten a backstory. But no, we flew. But there's this trope that Hispanic people are always late to events, and so like now, I just professionally I don't do that. Although I did struggle with that for a while, and there were lessons learned. But now I call it LST, Latino Standard Time.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Did you ever know anyone who came to America by a boat from Puerto Rico? Did your family?
No, not from Puerto Rico. I mean,
That was more of like Cuban thing.
Yeah, it's Cuban,
Yeah.
Dominican Republic, but the Dominican Republic, it's only a half hour away by plane ride from Santo Domingo to San Juan, and so like that was my first vacation, and so like. But there are people that to leave the Dominican Republic will go on these little boats that we call them jolas, and you look that up, but it's like a little raft.
Wave
And then,
raft.
Oh,
and
my
so,
word.
and then people from Cuba,
Oh my
obviously to
gosh.
Miami, they do
Yeah,
that in the opposite direction, but that's a lot more. That's like days,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, our friend Vanessa, she's Italian, and Vanessa's been on the podcast.
Yeah, Vanessa.
Her grandparents came over by a boat from Italy, and I think that's the most fascinating
that's
thing.
like
and
a
they'll
nice
talk about.
boat, right?
Well, it's a big ship. I don't know how nice it
it's a
was,
ship.
but I mean, they'll reference it at times. Like, when we came over on the boat, I remember one time I was having dinner. I'd met her uncle, her great uncle, I guess it is, and her dad was there. I forget his name, not Angelo, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, and our friend Kip we're all having dinner, and I didn't realize Kip had met them before once, but he just looks at Vanessa's dad and her uncle and goes, because they're Italian, grew up Catholic. He just goes, So boys, did that priest ever touch you all? I literally dropped my cheeseburger. I'm just like, I cannot believe he just asked that. And they respond like, no, we never had no problem. We had friends who did, but we heard stories.
There's
But
so many
I can
bad
see you
jokes
doing
about
that
that.
too.
I know, right?
Because you're a matter of fact.
Yeah.
That's so
But
funny.
again, to the point, I just think it's fun. It's not fun. It's good when we can. It's good when we can have fun and be lighthearted.
It's
serious.
fun when priests embrace their identity.
Yes. When we can
No,
talk
no,
about
no, not
serious
that
things
part.
and not get offended, I'm over the offensive stuff,
Oh,
you know?
man.
But
Oh, my
here we
gosh.
are. Speaking of being offended, we're always offended by how great Carlos is as a singer.
I know, it's super
And I think
offensive.
today we should talk about his recent journey.
Yeah.
On.
This is the voice.
Yeah.
I gotta make sure that I'm panicking as producer. I gotta make sure that these cameras are on. Okay,
yeah.
they're good.
Okay.
They're good. They're good. Hey, angle.
I appreciate
We have
you
a very
checking.
large staff here at the Vocal
cool.
Lab podcast.
This
Gotta
is
leave that in. No cuts.
This is it.
No cuts.
Okay, so we can finally talk about this.
Yes.
We have not been able to talk about this
Shelby
forever.
has talked about this
And I've been-
every day we were together.
Literally, I'm
for the
like,
past
Carlos, when can we interview?
5
Carlos,
years.
when can we interview?
Yeah.
Carlos, when? And so we're finally
Been
able to do
shackled.
it. We're finally able to do it. And we've known about how this was like unfolding for a while, and have just been like chomping at the bit to be able to ask you questions about the experience and give the people what they need to know, because people have been watching these shows like The Voice, American Idol, America's Got Talent for years now. I mean, I remember the OG season of American Idol when Kelly Clarkson won. I was glued to my TV. And gosh, that was in what, 2001, 2002?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah. And they've obviously evolved so much since then, but I think there's probably a lot that's still the same when it comes to just reality TV, ultimately. And the ins, the outs, the things that maybe we suspect is true, but we don't know. Maybe the things that we would have no idea is going on. And then the stuff that we actually do see on TV that you're like, yeah, that's how that happened, you know? So I don't even know where to start. Where should we start?
We should start. Were there any priests on the
Oh
stage?
my gosh.
Oh gosh.
Oh Lord. Okay.
Some exorcisms
yeah,
are
okay.
needed.
I know
for
where
sure.
we could start maybe with, how did you decide to go on The Voice? How did that all come to be?
Yeah.
Because you've got a career. You got stuff going on.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't. I auditioned for season 3. I did the whole cattle call. You know, if you've seen any of the original videos, I was part of the draw, right? Like, you know, can you be the next American Idol? And that was the first one. And then The Voice kind of came around, and then they started doing their own thing. And kind of, I remember CeeLo being one of the original coaches.
You auditioned for season 3 of The Voice?
Yeah.
Oh, I think that was the season my buddy Anthony Evans was on.
I think
it
yeah.
was season 3.
So, and the whole idea was like, hey, you know, like, we're gonna give you creative control, and so it's like, wow, this is really, really cool. And I remember the first season of The Voice, there was a guy named Javier who, like, he was so much better than everyone else. Like he was like so good. And I don't know what's happened with him. I think he's had some level of success in career. But anyway, a couple of years later, there was a youth pastor I worked with at my home church, and I was working at the church at that time. And he's like, "Oh, they're doing auditions in Orlando. You should go." And so I was like, "I don't want to go." So I went. We did the cattle call, and we just waited and waited. What's up?
Was it, sorry,
No, you're
was it
fine.
at the cattle call in
Yeah.
Orlando? Was it at that place that were like, I mean, like a convention center?
Yeah, the
where
Universal. Yeah,
The
yeah.
inside of it looks like we're like an airplane hangar facility. It's like that big on the inside.
It's huge. Yeah.
I auditioned for American Idol in Orlando
Uh-huh.
the year Carrie Underwood won.
It might have been.
And I got cut from the cattle call. Like I didn't make it past the cattle call.
That's basically what happens. So
Yeah.
like, you know, if you know how it goes, you like go from one area outside
Yeah.
to then not as much outside, but still sorta, to then you go inside, then you
Then
go
you
into
camp
a
out
then
for
you,
a day.
Yeah, then you sit out in a room, and then
Yeah.
from that room they just kind of start, you know, and so
Oh, it's brutal.
you know, and so after that I just said, I'm never doing this again.
Same.
I
I
was
did
like,
the
I
same. I
just-
was like,
I
cool,
cannot.
did it. And I did it because people...
AGT one time, and
Did
that was
you?
it. I'm like, I'll never do that again.
People forced me to do it. They were like, "You got to do it." And I finally was
Yeah.
like, "If y'all will shut up and stop harassing me about it,
Yeah.
I'll do it." And then I was like, "Cool, I did it. I don't want to do that again."
Yeah.
But yeah.
And there's a whole, like, you know, innocence, you know, kind of the whole, like, you know, they don't know the man behind the curtain kind of a thing. And so that's where they speak from. And so that's understandable. It's like, oh yeah, there's millions of people auditioning, and surely you is going to be the one who really, you know.
Yep.
But anyway, so like, you know, I left it, you know, alone. And I just worked in churches for a really long time, and then Tenore happened, and so did that for a couple of years, and then
Feetfinder.com.
That was before that.
Are you a foot model?
No, heavens no. I think
not really
Jason.
modeling.
I think Jason's really talking about.
Is this like a weird, creepy dating site?
Yeah, people are so weird, man.
Is that how you
It's
met
like
Catherine?
OnlyFans for feet.
Oh heavens no!
It's like
Heavens, no.
OnlyFans for feet.
Shut up.
It's
People are
actually
so
a
weird.
thing.
Ew.
It's been a long-term joke between me and my
That's
friend
what we
Nikki
always
about
tell
how we're
Jason
gonna pay
to
for
put shoes on.
records.
Yeah.
It's like, let's just go on, because like she's like, I'm not gonna do OnlyFans. I'm like, you should do feetfinder.com.
Oh
Stop. This is weird.
Yeah.
Weirdos out there.
Bizarre. And
None of our listeners.
No, never.
Oh my gosh.
And but anyway, so fast forward all these years, I kind of get established in town. I get into the session singing community, doing studio singing, and get some really cool opportunities doing that. I was able to be in a Netflix show, like it was like a basically karaoke, it's like
Was that the one in England?
yeah.
Yeah.
And so we filmed in England, and then I had a chance to do Harmonious Live, and so that was Disney Plus, and so that was really, really cool to be a part of that. And so and then my dad calls me, I think fall of 2023, so it's been a while, and he says, "Hey son, I'm really sorry, I did something, I gotta apologize." And I was like, "What's going on?" And so he's like, "Well, I pretended to be you, and I filled out a profile for you, and I sent in YouTube videos of yours as part of the open casting call for The Voice, and you got a call back." And I had just I had gotten home from teaching at school, and so I'm like, "What? Like, what's going on?" And so then I had a decision to make, and the decision was, am I gonna go through with the callback, or am I not going to do it? And so he's like, "I'm just leaving it in your hands, do whatever you want with it." And so I
What a sweet dad.
yeah, and I've said this before, but he said to me, like, "I just believe in you so much."
Aw.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So anyway, I go through with it. I got home after I think I had taught like 5 students that day, and then I had to record like 3 full songs and send new auditions, like if I wanted to do the callback. And so, record them, not edit them, it's like 1 takes, and then upload them to YouTube and send the links. And so I did that. And then my dad, in that process, he like fessed up to the casting people. They were like, "Hey, I pretended to be my son. I'm really, really sorry, blah, blah, blah." And so, yeah.
Which
so
has obviously happened plenty of times.
I'm sure. Yeah. I think it happened maybe someone in the last season, they happen to be Hispanic too. So I just think that's really funny. Maybe it's just like a Hispanic
thing,
parents,
yeah.
it's like, "You aren't doing it, we're going to do it for you." And so that's kind of how it all happened, and so before you know it, I'm out there in California kind of going through the process.
Did they, after you sent in the links to the uploaded songs for the callback, then how many more steps in the audition process before they fly you out to California?
Yeah, there's a huge, you do more phone calls, you talk to different people, you do another interview that they, a lot of times, like, there's this whole long process, and then, and honestly, up until, I would like to say that up until you're actually singing in front of those coaches, you're still auditioning. So, you could be backstage, and, because, it's reality television, but as I was sitting here thinking, the thought came to mind of like a different term. It's pre-ality, like it's there's a lot of stuff that happens before that,
the stuff we see.
Things have to be crafted, like
Right.
that things, you're trying.
They're curating an experience for the audience, for sure.
Yeah, because it's a show and it needs to be entertaining, and so I totally get that. And but anyway, so like up until that point that you get on there and you got that mic and you're singing that song, like you are auditioning,
Did you see anybody get cut before they walked out there, like in that?
No, I didn't see that. We're somewhere backstage, just kind of in this area, just waiting, and so you don't really get to see any. Once they take
just
someone
hear the
to go,
screams.
yeah, because there's this trap
like-
door,
Trap door.
and
They got this cattle prod that shocks you right before.
Did you see?
Yeah.
Did y'all watch?
It's real dramatic and traumatic.
Did y'all watch the Beast Games?
the Beast
I
games.
started
Yeah, you do the
watching it,
Beastas,
like
the
Mr.
YouTube guy?
Beast.
Oh,
Mr.
Mr.
Beast.
Beast. Yeah, no.
I watched
They like
the
drop
first
people
5
through these, like
minutes of
the
it.
floor
Like
pulls
the
out from
Ellen
under them and they
show.
just
Remember
drop
Ellen's
down.
game show?
No, I don't.
You never watched the Ellen game
No.
show? Oh, it was so funny. She had that big thing. One of the last things, the 4 people who make it through, they all stand at, like, it was like probably 30 feet up in the air, and they're on a trapdoor, and they know this, and it's glass all the way down. And it was like a rapid fire. She asked a question, you had to give the answer, right? And you had a few seconds. And if you miss it, she pushed a button and you fall 30 feet down below.
That's wild.
Oh, yeah. No.
Talk about the waivers you got to sign.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But
Into like
that was a
I don't
random
know,
thought,
foam
but-
pit down there or whatever. But it
That'd
was
be nice.
Yeah. I used to love that game show. It was so funny.
you can't kill people, but just anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, carry on. So no trap doors that you know of
That I
that
know
people
of,
fell
yeah.
down through from The Voice.
Yeah. So, but you obviously like, and it's obvious for people now. Like, so I don't think I'm disclosing anything that's not like already public knowledge. But they've gone to a format of filming 2 seasons at once, so that they can they'll have 2 seasons worth of people at the artist hotel. And so as you go through that process, you just kind of see the crowd getting smaller, even before audition. And so it's just, a lot of times they will just, people go home, and that's just a part of it.
Yeah.
And I didn't really befriend a lot of people in the earlier stages. I didn't do the whole Camp Rock thing. And there were 2 reasons for that. Number one, right 3 weeks before I left, I had just gotten married. And so it's like I got married, and then like at the end of the month, it's like, I fly out to be out there for 2.5 weeks, and then come back, and then go back, and then, and so it was this whole experience. And so I was just like, I want to make sure that I'm paying attention to my wife, and that I'm like talking to her, spending time with her. And then secondly, actually there's 3 reasons. The second one, it's like, you don't really know these people, so you don't really, and so I kind of have become, as I've gotten older, a little bit more just closed off, and so I was kind of scared of just throwing myself into this large pool of people, of just like making myself available to so many people, and because maybe it's just a fault of mine, but I just. You don't know who to trust.
Yeah.
It's like, are you cool? Like, are you a cool person, or are you weird? Like.
Well, and it's also a competition.
Yeah, it's also competition, and that's the third point. The third point is like, if I'm staying up till 3 a.m, and then I'm not, like, then my voice isn't gonna be in good shape. What if I get sick? What if what if I stay out too late, and then like something happens to me, or like I'm crossing a street, or like something, or like And so I'm a little bit paranoid about that kind of stuff. And I'm like, this is such a rare opportunity that I'm like, if something doesn't go well while I'm here, it's not going to be because I put myself in that kind of situation. Like, I am going to...
Yeah.
And you're sacrificing a lot to be there.
Well, I think that's what people
And
don't
so you
realize
gotta-
at home.
right.
The cost that every person that goes on any of these shows actually goes through physically, emotionally, monetarily, relationship wise, with whoever they're married to or friends with, work, all of it. It's a huge sacrifice because it's a big time requirement. And especially if you go on and on and on.
So you got to make the most of it. You got to eliminate variables that could come inside.
And you can kind of tell what those groups are. So the older people, I would say, like in their 30s or mid 30s and or older, and there's a wide group, obviously, and then there's people that are even in their teens, but then they have to have their parents with them. That's different. But then there's like the late teens, early 20s, and so they're just kind of throwing caution to the wind because we were all gonna live forever, at the that age. And I don't know, again, like Brett, he always makes that joke. He's like, I plan on living forever, and so far I'm doing a good job. And so like it always cracks me up. But it's like, at that age, you just kind of throw caution to the wind. You're working a job that you don't like anyways at that age. And so,
and your body can get away with murder too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like you could kind of see those two pockets of people, and there was some overlap in that musical Venn diagram, but for me not. I was just like, no, I'm here to sing, I'm here to do my thing, and I'm gonna try to not do anything to mess anything up. And then obviously like something happens to me anyways. And so I end up getting diagnosed with Lyme disease and all that stuff, and
Which
how
is
that happens.
such a crazy part of this whole story.
Yeah.
Like I remember you coming back and telling us about like the physical turmoil of all of that, and literally like at the moment you had to go sing was at its fever pitch, right?
Yeah. I mean, at least
for the chair turning segment.
Yeah, like I could actually move my body a little bit more, but a few days prior to that, I mean, I was like, I was glued to my hotel bed. Like if I try to move, it was some of the most excruciating pain. I had numbness in my neck and my jaw. I had arthritic pain, and so then the night before the audition, I could barely sleep, so I got like 3 hours of sleep because I had a flare up, and then you feel like you're burning from the inside out because I think your body's your antibodies are just trying to fight it, so you get a fever. And so you're just feeling hot. I mean, I literally had my hotel room at like probably 65 on cool, and I'm sleeping in my britches like with like no blankets, and I am hot feeling.
That's crazy.
And and sometimes you're like getting hallucinations and all that stuff, so it was really, really weird. And so I got the call basically as I'm about to go on stage. Maybe I say, like, I always say 45 minutes, but it might have been longer or less, but about 45 minutes before I get on stage, like, hey, we got your test results back, you did test positive for Lyme. So it's like
so you're having to deal with that.
Cool. So then I called my parents. They're on the other side of the stage.
That's not a nothing diagnosis.
Yeah, exactly. Massive. Because originally I had found this thing on my leg, this like Rhett's blotch on my leg, and I'm thinking like, oh, is it like a blood clot or something? Because my leg's getting red and it feels kind of warm, and I'm just like, so I go and she's like, no, I don't think that's a blood clot. But the nurse at the urgent care is like, but it could be Lyme disease. And I was like, I know I wanted to be a blood clot. Like,
you're like,
I'd rather put me on
that one.
Put me on blood thinners, and fix that. But this, it's like, and so.
Too bad it wasn't the Masked Singer. You could have been a giant tick.
I love that we can laugh about that. What a great idea.
Yeah, I should, It
would have been really traumatizing to a sect of the population, though.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
They would have been ticked off.
Hey.
So bad.
That was great.
So you had gone to urgent care while you were in, because you show up to California, you don't have symptoms.
Yeah.
And then this develops over the 2 weeks that you're there. You go to urgent care because you're like, WTF.
Yeah.
And then they call you back 45 minutes before you go on stage.
Yeah.
That's the whole episode in and of itself. I mean, that's bananas, but we obviously will continue to carry on. So what was going through your head then and how do you feel like that impacted your performance?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I can show you guys the recordings of my, my lessons and the things that I was working on, and through my audition song, Right Here Waiting, and I felt like I couldn't sing anymore. Like it was really, really tough, and I didn't know how bad it affected it until I found out. Like, I mean, that's essentially how Shania Twain kind of lost her career.
Yeah.
Because her voice got so affected, but she
from tick.
Yeah,
from Lyme disease?
She's got Lyme disease.
I didn't know that.
She went undiagnosed. She went undiagnosed for a really long time, and that's how she lost her voice, because I had no idea. They didn't catch it early. And
that's so awful.
And you caught it like so early.
I was like, they call it a target lesion, but like I was. Oftentimes people don't even see that. I was lucky because I went to the gym, and when I got back to the hotel room, my leg itched, and I went to scratch myself, and I was like, it felt like I was peeling my skin off. So then I go to a mirror and I check in my leg and I see this giant red blotch. I was like, that's not normal.
Right.
So I was like, I guess I got to go to the doctor or shoot, and
Right.
so that kind of led to that whole discovery. But I had landed. And I've had a surgery on my neck for like a small tumor or whatever, like a fatty tumor, and so when I landed in California, I thought like, oh man, my neck feels stiff, but I thought it was just like I'm in a plane ride for 4.5 hours, I'm comfortable, and like I'm the kind of guy that whenever I sit next to people, I want to be comfortable, but I also don't want them to be uncomfortable. And so if someone sits in the middle seat, you will find me like this against the window the whole time.
Yeah.
You know,
You know what I find is the best solution to that?
first class
Yeah,
conversations.
first class.
I was about to
Have
say,
a first-class
Jason
conversation.
doesn't know what that's like. He doesn't have
I
that
don't.
experience at all.
I don't, honestly, I would rather just be with the luggage. It probably would be more comfortable.
Oh, boy.
But anyway,
I told you, like in Tenore, one of my favorite things, because I would get it upgraded a lot.
All the time.
Right? All the time.
I saw it, yeah.
I love to like send things back to the guys in the back.
yeah.
Or just act like I didn't know them when they walked
So
through.
patronizing.
And they'll be like, wave.
Both Mark and I
Yeah.
think I've said this before, but both Mark and I were there when he hit like diamond.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right,
Yeah.
On the flight.
We were on
Yeah.
that flight. We'd like to
Million miler.
Million miles.
Yeah, hit Million Miler, because they announce you
gosh.
on the flight.
Yeah. And so
Oh,
but anyway, so like so I get there and then I think, my neck is getting stiff, and then the next day I got hit by a lift gate walking to Target, because the car was like leaving
I
a
knew that.
parking garage and they were halfway into the street, so I decided to walk behind them, and then the lift gate like Judy chops me in the neck
oh my gosh.
where I was
so
already
funny.
stiff, and so
Yeah.
I had no
like,
idea.
I like just like I'm young, whatever. I just
You
kind of
left
do
that one
whatever,
out.
and so anyway, so the next day I can't move my neck. Like I'm like I try to get off the bed and I can't, and it literally was some of the most excruciating pain.
Oof.
I couldn't sleep. Now, thankfully, here's the thing, kind of going back to the show, in those earlier times, because you have so many people there, and God bless them, the people behind the scenes, like they have it, it's a well-oiled machine. But for us, like you would do a thing, like, and then you would have like 5 days off before you do
Right.
the next thing, because they're having to go through all of these
All the
people.
people.
And so anyway, so thankfully I had some time off to figure that out, and but like, yeah, and like I had ibuprofen, and like, but it was expired, so like I took it and it didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So like patches, like icy hot patches wouldn't work, nothing. So eventually I had to walk to Target, like, or whatever, to get like arthritis medicine or whatever, like Aleve and like Tylenol and like the strongest stuff, so that I could combine them. And thankfully that started bringing the inflammation down a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you guys get it, like you know what your voice feels like, that kind of level of grip that you have, and it's like you're driving in mud. Like it just was slippery, it couldn't engage. The only way that I could get it to engage was over compressing, and like the people who kind of help you usher you through this process into your audition, like, and kind of giving you advice, like, hey man, like try not to over compress. I was like, I'm trying,
Right.
trust me, like
Yeah.
So normal.
I feel like it was a bad date. It's like, look, I have all these people you could call that can vouch for me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, right, right.
It's really, really bad. And
So, I mean, this whole time then leading up to right before you sing, are you just like totally spiraling and ruminating in your head, like, what is wrong with me?
yeah, I
What
didn't
is
know.
going to happen?
I didn't know. And then also the second thing is that's happening, and I hadn't been in California in years, and so I hadn't dealt with the dry climate.
Yeah.
And so I'm
That'll get
combining
you.
those two. It was awful.
Yeah.
It was awful. I was drinking so much water, and it was still like a desert in my throat.
And then this is crazy because your performance, this that we've now all seen, is phenomenal.
Well, thanks.
How do you feel like you went from that to singing and getting, your dream coach to turn his chair for you, and you're like no one knows what's going on the inside of your head or your body.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you were able to perform on that level, which I know was not your best, but you still performed better than everybody else in the room could have done. You know what I mean? And with all that going on, how did that happen?
Yeah. My favorite comment so far on social media, kind of and it made me laugh so hard. You guys are gonna laugh at this too. It was it said, "Go home, Grandpa, 2 out of 10."
I really shouldn't have put that.
Your burner account?
Really?
That was your burner
Yeah, my
account?
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
I just found that out. I woke up like yesterday morning or the day before, and I opened my phone and I saw a notification. It said, "Go home, Grandpa, 2 out of 10."
Oh my gosh. You people out there are ruthless.
Yeah.
I mean,
They're
you know,
ruthless.
There's like a picture of a camera on the
Oh,
camera.
sorry.
Is that good or bad?
It's fine. This is part of this is the recording limit. So, let's see if it'll go again. There we go.
Was it not recording?
I mean, these two are, so it's just that has a 30-minute
We have
recording
backup.
limit.
Oh, well then it probably just happened.
We have learned.
Yeah, it just happened.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, that was really funny. So I 3 things. Yeah, there's this thing that Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach used to write at the top of his pieces. It was JJ. That was the initials, and it's German, Jesu Juva, and it just literally means Jesus help. So I'm literally backstage, just
That's a cool story. I didn't know that.
I
saying
didn't
that over, and so he would write that at the beginning, and at the end of each piece, he would write the more commonly known one, Soli Deo Gloria. Everyone kind of has heard some of that, but at the beginning, he would always write JJ, and. But anyway, so I'm like thinking that all the time. And then the other thing is I'm trying to breathe, and then I'm trying to I kept going over the lyrics in my mind, because one of the big things with Lyme disease is you get brain fog. And when earlier on, there were days where I literally could not remember the beginning lyrics to my songs.
So no prompters on the show.
No. You're up there, you get your 90-second cut of the song that you're auditioning with, and then you just go. And then, and so you just, I put my head down, and then I'm like, all right, just at this point, I was so ready to go home that I'm like, I'm just going to do my best. Everyone, I mean, you've done P90X and before.
Yeah, a little bit. I haven't gone through the whole thing, but
but like, you've one of the things that Tony Horton always, that I've used is like, do your best, forget the rest. And so like, that's all I kept thinking. It's like, just do your best, forget the rest, And so I get up there and it's like, remember the words and then try to sing light. And then one of the things that they would always tell us, which was super helpful for me, is that because they want to record it super well, because they're multi-tracking all of this for television, and it's like, you got to be eating that mic. And I'm like, I got it, because then at that point, even though the temptation is for us as musicians to play with mic, do mic technique and all that stuff, and but because of that, I didn't have to oversing, and so I put myself in what we all talk about, that light and right place. And so I just was like, stay light and right. And so, it didn't, honestly, and I've done this whole video breakdown of my audition and the things that I aimed for. There were things that I just missed, but it's because you're just holding on for dear lives.
Yeah, sure,
you practice them, but then at a certain point, instinct just takes over, and then you just try to do your best.
Yeah. I'm curious, did you have any like, I've told you before, like when I get a little anxiety, which can get at any moment, it's different. To me, anxiety is different than nervousness, even though they're connected. But I rarely ever get nervous anymore going up to do something, but I do get anxious at times, right? So for me, I get it's the most annoying, but I get a little coating of gunk on my vocal cords. It's like, can you not just give me a sweaty palm? I can keep the mic in my hand.
Or like have to go poop.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Oh no, I got a friend who before every performance he just has to poop, and it's like that would suck too, though.
Yeah.
But did you get like any like physical sign of like, okay, I'm anxious? And were you actually nervous?
Oh, I
or-
was so nervous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of pressure in that moment.
Yeah.
It's a pressure cooker. Intentionally a pressure cooker.
For sure.
Without the Lyme disease.
And
It's
and
intense.
you know, obviously when you're backstage, it's their job to, you know, anytime that you're on the voice set and you're doing anything voice related as an artist, like if you're going to perform, if you're doing like, they have cameras on you.
Oh yeah.
So like you're backstage, and so they have cameras because maybe they're going to use that, maybe not, whatever.
You're on.
So you're there, and then they're filming it, and then they're like, and but at this point, really more than anything, I really honestly I can say that I didn't care like what happened, but I really wanted to get a result for my parents, and especially for my dad.
And they were there.
They were there.
Yeah, they were there.
Did you tell them about the diagnosis before
I
you
called
went on
them
stage?
as soon as because I had thoughts. I'm like, hey, I've been looking into this. You know, my wife Catherine had mentioned, you know, maybe it could be this. You know, and so we had done some research, and they were like, no, let's hope that it's not that. Let's hope that it's not that. I was like, look, I'm just being honest. All the symptoms line up. Ever since they told me it might be that, I looked it up, and literally everything matches. And so I called them and I told them, and they were like, all right, it's going to be okay. Like, you know, they prayed for me, and it was like, just focus. And I had a playlist of worship music, and I didn't really talk to a lot of people backstage.
Oh, I would have had zero capacity to talk to anybody.
And all these people had already, you know, kind of befriended each other. And there were a couple of people that I had sort of met, but I put my headphones on, and I just had this music.
Lock
and
in.
I probably looked really weird because I'm in that back room, and we're just waiting, and I was kind of facing the wall, and I've got my headphones on, and I'm just listening to these songs, and I'm just doing this number. it's like, so is this guy,
He's special.
is he okay? Like, is he okay? And
Spectrum.
yeah, and so but yeah, so I was just trying to get myself hyped up, and that's all that it was. And
So what was the feeling when you got that chair turn?
I actually got more nervous.
Well,
Oh.
point B to that question is, did you know that Bublé was one of the coaches?
I did, yeah.
Okay,
so
you
they
knew that.
they tell you at
Okay.
least, like they tell
they
you
are.
who they are. Actually,
Okay.
they announced it on social media before they even told
That's
us.
true. Yeah, that's right.
And so we
'Cause
kind
they
of
announced the
already
season
they
coaches.
actually announced it the day before, and then we all had a big meeting, and then it's, you know, it's like, hey, you guys already know who the coaches are? And so
Yeah.
it's like, you know, we're pretending like we don't know, because it's like, hey, you guys leaked this.
Yeah.
So we already knew, and I was super excited that he was back. But yeah.
And
so,
he was the first chair, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he turned first, right at the pre-chorus of the song.
Speaking of first, I flew with Michael Bublé in first
stop.
class one time.
Did you really?
Yeah, you know
Yeah.
that story.
Did I? Maybe
Back from
I don't-
Vancouver to LA.
Oh yeah. Oh,
We-
that's right. That's
yeah,
right.
we
That's
talked-
right.
Can you
that's
get
right.
Bublé on the podcast?
Let's work
maybe
that.
one day.
I know. I talked to him as we were getting off the plane because he was right behind me.
Yeah.
And he was talking. I was like, that voice sounds familiar. He had a baseball cap on, and so when I got up at one point in the flight to go to the bathroom, come back, and I see him, I was like, oh, that's Michael Bublé. So I was still in Tenori at this time. So we land in LA, going up the little ramp, and he just comes up beside me, and he's like, hey man, how's it going? I was like, okay. Well,
He started the
Oh, yeah, yeah.
conversation?
I'm like, hey, I'm good. I'm like, you're Michael, right? He's like, yeah. And he stuck out his hand to shake my hand. I'm like, hey, I just want you to know, I saw you as I was coming out of the bathroom, and I just...
Did you wash your hands?
No, never.
Okay,
I never
so,
do.
So you,
Of course I did.
there's that first class handshake.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Oh, Lord.
So I was like, hey, I just want you to know I really appreciate your art. And he's like, man, that like, and I'm not just saying this, like, that means everything when people tell me this. He's like, I really value people, you know, basically giving me props. And
That was his
so
ringtone. When his phone went off, it was actually your voice.
Oh, was it
saying,
really?
"Hey, man,
Oh, that's
I really
amazing.
appreciate
He
your
did
art."
record it. I remember. No, but you know what? He kept talking. He's like, "So, do you live in LA or you're Vancouver?" I'm like, "No, I live here." And we had this conversation all the way to baggage claim. He knew the tenors. He's friends with a couple of the tenors, so he knew Jill, our manager, founder. So we had this whole conversation about me being in this group Tenore. He'd heard of us. So it's this whole thing. And
How have we never talked about
as
this?
we get closer to baggage claim, I'm like, God, please let him have a bag. And God, if he does not have a bag, let him ask for my phone number. Neither of those happened. He didn't have a bag at check-in. He didn't ask for my phone number. But I just knew we were going to be best friends after that.
Yeah, and here we are.
Here we are.
Well,
and
it
now you're
sounds
connected to
like
him.
I'm the only one in the room that doesn't have a Michael Bublé connection, so y'all have to work together to figure out how to get him on the show so that he can be my best friend.
We're going to make that ecosphere happen.
We're gonna finish off that Illuminati triangle.
Yeah, that's how we're in that club. Hey, so you got more nervous when he turned.
Yes, because I'm up there.
Well,
I'm
now
singing.
you're looking at him, right? It's
Yeah.
one thing when you're
Yeah.
not looking
Yeah,
at the
that's
coaches,
true.
and now you got to look at them. It's like, oh,
Yeah, and you've got I've practiced this little pseudo choreography of like how I'm gonna move on stage, how I'm gonna communicate to people, because the chairs aren't turned, and so that happens.
You had a diaper on just in case.
The what?
You had a diaper on just in case.
For sure, for sure. Yeah,
Got the voice logo on it. They just have them in the back.
Yeah. It would have been a crime scene otherwise. But anyway, so he turns around and I'm singing, and like, if you listen to it, like you can hear that there was a little bit of jitter.
Sure.
And
That's something I've not thought about. Like, what do people physically think, feel, and how they experience and express that when the chair turns and they see the
Right.
person? Like, that's a
I bet
whole
it's-
different level of
I bet
pressure.
for some it like helps them settle the nerves, and then
Probably.
others it'll amp it up.
Yeah,
yeah,
totally.
Both are valid responses.
yeah, it's like it's a limbic response regardless. Whether it's a negative or positive one, there's a spike that occurs in that moment.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened.
sure.
It was like he turns around and it's like, and so obviously at that moment I feel nervous, but also relieved.
Sure.
I was like, oh, wow, okay, cool. And so then at that point, then there's two things happening. I'm like, okay, so now I'm getting into the groove of the song in the chorus where like, and I'm thinking, man, like my voice isn't doing what I usually want it to do, but it's in an okay place. And then you just, you're trying to make it interesting with the arrangement. And so, I threw a key change in there. And so then it modulates the new key and you just kind of hold on for dear life. And then when the key change happened, that's when Adam turned, and that was really, really cool. Then you have two, obviously, and so at that point, once that happened, I was like, all right, fine. And so then I just kind of coasted through the rest.
We
of the
should have
song.
started the show like this, Shelby.
Oh yes,
man.
yeah.
We weren't thinking.
Yeah.
Dang it.
We had a
We
joke.
could chair
Let's
turns.
refilm.
So funny enough, we had the guys that I ended up being friends with, we had a joke that like if they had a button to like turn their chair around, and I don't know if you guys saw that, Shane Gillis, the comedian, he was on SNL and they did that. I'll have to show you guys this little video later, but NBC released obviously SNL, NBC, they released this skit where they have, it's like, they said, one of the characters said, welcome to the sound. And so it's the whole idea. And so they hear this person singing and they all turn their chairs around, and it's like a 56-year-old, weird looking dude on a wheelchair, but he sounded like amazing. And he's like, how old are you? He's like, I'm 13. And he's like, there's no way that you're 13. And he's like, well, I was born in a leap year, so how old are you really? Like 56. But then they hit the button and it turns their chairs around. So we always joke, as soon as that came out, it was like they stole our idea.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That was funny.
But anyway,
So how many chair turns did you have? Two.
Two,
So
yeah.
Bublé and Adam, and you knew who you wanted.
Oh yeah, of course.
From the moment they announced to the coaches,
course,
you knew,
yeah.
and we knew. We were like, Bublé all the way.
Yeah, of course.
Nothing against Adam, but just
No,
for
he's
you
great.
and for the pairing,
Yeah.
it just makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, what else do you want to share about that? Like, what was the experience for getting to work with Michael Bublé, and after that, like, what
so
happens
it's the
after
best.
the chairs
Obviously,
turn?
so then after that, you're on that team, you're on his team, and then you get paired up with battles, and I got paired up with this great guy named Aaron Rizzo, incredible guitar player, incredible producer in Atlanta. He's from New York originally, graduated from Ithaca, and he's just unbelievable. And in our kind of like, we ended up doing Gravity. That performance got montaged, so you don't really see it on the show, but behind the scenes it was really, really,
Which is another thing a lot of people don't realize is like,
yeah,
a lot of people are on these shows and you don't really see in them, and maybe get just very little of them.
yeah.
And I point that out specifically for like people out there listening who may have grand visions of going on a show like these.
You're
and
not
just think
guaranteed
it's-
your time.
No, there is a huge risk in every way for saying yes to one of these things, and you got to weigh that, and you need to kind of talk with someone or work with someone who's gone down that path before. You know, like
Right.
I mean, obviously you're going to have a really great experience now coaching people. Who may or may not be on these shows because you've done it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I did a session with Melinda Doolittle.
Yeah.
And so I was
so
saying, and
I love
she's
Melinda.
she's the
She's
best.
so good
And so she's like,
and
hey,
very funny.
she's hilarious.
She is funny. She is a really funny
need Melinda
Instagram
on the
follower.
Yes.
podcast.
Can we, Melinda? She's
join
a
us.
great follow on like social media.
Yeah,
she's
she's
hysterical.
hilarious.
Why have we not
Yeah.
thought about her?
Well, I don't
And-
think I knew that you knew her, so
Yeah,
I'm
I've
not
done a couple
surprised.
shows with her.
But she's like, hey, we're trauma bonded now. So like, let's talk about this. So she kind of did that for me.
She was idle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I was kind of in the process of me kind of going through that and all that stuff. And
We're
so,
also trauma bonded because we had the same booking agent for a while.
yeah.
That-
Oh boy.
Carlos is that
you-
trauma
you
bond
and
too.
yeah.
With
Oh my
Tenori.
gosh. There's so
That's
many
another
stories
story.
in that. But
Wow.
So you and Aaron.
yeah, Aaron. And so he's a great guitar player. And obviously I had classical background, and then the last 15 years I've spent it trying to work on commercial stuff. And that's kind of how, my first in-person lesson with Brett was in 2008. It was a half-hour lesson back when he used to do half hours. And that was a gift from my parents to me, a birthday present. And so, and but there's still so many things, like I listened to that guy sing, and he just did licks that I just could have never really imagined, and he approached songs so differently. And so it was really collaborative, because like he would help me reimagine ideas of how to sing as we're working through the arrangement of the song. Reimagine different things that I could sing differently.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I helped him out with technique.
Yeah.
So like I give him
And so it's
voice
not
lessons.
a battle. It's like this collaboration,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
Yeah, because
The best performance is going to be that.
yeah, the audition is a very objective thing. So like, if they hear something that they want, that's the objective thing. The other performances to follow, except to the lives, it's all very subjective, because it's like, it's not just like you're trying to win as a singer. The coach is trying to find the best artists that will hopefully help them also win, because there's a coach's prize. And so
And the show is also plugging spots for
The coach.
the show.
the coaches,
for the coaches for
that's
the
right.
show, because
Yeah.
they got to
Right.
keep people watching,
Exactly.
Yeah.
right?
And so
They can't have 10 of the same gospel artists,
correct.
right?
Correct.
There's got to be variety.
And sometimes that's that. It's like, hey, I already have a gospel artist. That's why I didn't turn for you.
Yep.
blah,
Or you'll
blah,
see
blah,
someone
blah.
steal someone because
Exactly.
And
they
they say
need
that.
on the
They'll
TV.
say
They
that
say
on
that.
TV.
They're very,
Yeah.
very open about that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's kind of part of the appeal of the show. And so, so you just kind of go out there kind of realizing like, they might pick you, they might not.
Yeah.
When you go up there and you sing a duet and you kind of do that, whoever wins, it's like, yeah. But I will say, if you watch the montage clip, when Michael chose me, I was like, I didn't think that was going to happen. I thought I was going home. I was like, all right, I'm done. And then he called
I
out my
called
name.
him.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I
hey,
heard the
I'm like-
ringtone as the battle's happening.
I'm like,
I
hey,
really
boob.
appreciate
I'm
your
like, hey,
art.
yeah,
and
I'm like, hey,
everything.
boob. I call him boob.
Yeah,
It's fun. I'm like, do this favor for me. You
Yeah.
owe me one.
Yeah.
He did.
We need our producer back. Can we have
Well,
him
that
back,
was the
please?
third call.
Yeah, that's true. We're running out of episodes.
Yeah.
We need
The
him
nail in
back
the coffin
stat.
call.
That was actually a text. I just needed
it's
it
just,
done.
Yeah.
That's
All
so
right,
funny.
Time's up.
But yeah, so
How do
then
I
we
come
go
up
on
with
to the
this?
knockout rounds, and then
Why did you think you hadn't won that battle?
Just because of the my voice is not really kind of that, even though in session world I pretty much sing everything, and I've had the opportunity to work really hard to at least give convincingly, or as we often lovingly like to say, a compelling commercial vocal. But we all have our own styles that our voice really, really shines.
Yeah,
you
sure.
know, and it's that little sweater that you just put on, and it's
Yeah.
just the easiest that you can sing. And for me, that's like neoclassical, pop classical, and so. And again, the people who go far in the show is people who are authentic.
Plug for authentic.
Yeah. And authentic.
Yeah. We need a little
To their
button
to
that says that.
to their artistry. And so a few years ago, I kind of came to that realization of like, this is who you are, and you don't have to be afraid of that. There's a lot of freedom within that tether. There's a lot of space to move in that, and so I'm like, hey, whatever happens, so I'm just gonna sing how I sing, and if they like it, they like it, and if not, that's fine, you know, and you just kind of hold on, and you just go on. Just right before my final performance, I'm backstage, and I'm just like, again, I'm gonna do my best, forget the rest, and we don't know what they want. We don't know what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the theme. And
And
just
that's kind of
go,
good, because then when you don't know that, you're less tempted to try to be something other than who you are.
Yeah.
Well, and also
So your best move is to just be yourself.
you have so much going on. It's like this was going to be a little cherry on top of everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regardless of how far you went or not, and whatever comes from it, even still, right?
Yeah.
Where someone out there listening right now, maybe in Kansas, who's not been involved in music much, and they get this opportunity and hangs every hat they have on this.
Yeah.
The come down or let down is going to be way more dramatic. You were fine.
Yeah.
And I think that's a healthy place to be. And anyone out there should try to find that and understand these are TV shows that have way more at stake and way more on their minds than making you a star.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Right.
If that happens through this platform, cool.
Yeah.
But that's not the intention in any
And
way.
that's not the responsibility they're carrying.
No, not
is
at all.
To kind of, not to be mean, but they're not trying to be out there and coddle you and take care of you. Like
No, it's not what they're there for.
you need to do that for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So
What
So
advice
anyway-
would you... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, to kind of finish that segment of the whole journey with the battles, and you kind of not expecting to be picked, right? And then he calls your name. What was that? I don't know. What was that like? What was that experience where he chose you?
Yeah, it was tough because internally, as they're all talking and doing the comments and all that stuff, like internally I had already made peace with the fact that I was going home. And so then there's that weird like, okay, no, I have to stay here now. So I'm like thinking, I was like, I get to be home, sleep in my bed tomorrow.
Yeah.
Get to be home with my wife. I get to be home with my cats, and hang out and do it.
You should have brought the
I
cats
get to be
on.
like, get off my lawn.
Yeah.
Should
be
have
an
brought
old
the
man.
cats on.
Yes. I know I should have brought Blaze.
We can have them as guests sometime.
And
We can hold them.
yeah.
Oh, nope. Sure won't.
One of them would let you hold, the other one wouldn't, but Blaze would let you hold them if you wanted to. He'll just start purring like,
Yeah.
I'll let you do that.
I think here's my question to you on this. One, would you do it again?
no.
Okay, that's an easy
That was a
answer.
quick
It's
one.
quick.
Quick no.
And part two of that question is, what's one bit of advice you give anyone out there who's going to go on one of these shows or wants to go on one of these shows?
Yeah, I mean, plan your strategy. That's the biggest thing, plan your strategy from the moment that, whether you get to audition or not. If you do get to audition and then you move forward, you got to have your make the most out of it, like I don't know how many of the coaches do this, but I know that Michael's been really great. Like he follows his team on social media and he'll like interact and reshare their posts and stuff like that. And so that's been really, really great. So like,
Sure.
really kind of him to do.
Yeah.
They don't have to do that, and
Right.
so that was a really cool thing of just like, you look at your phone and all of a sudden it's like Michael Bublé is following you. It's like, whoa,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
cool.
Pretty cool.
and but I would say plan your content strategy if you really do want to be an artist and just keep releasing music and do all that. And so I've been kind of in the throes of doing that, and I took songs down that I had produced and done years ago, and then like kind of revamping them to re-release them as this
cool.
goes on, so that
idea.
it has that. But you just have to plan it. You just have to plan it and really have a vision of what it is that you want to do, because again, they're not going to do anything for you.
No.
And they take really great care of you while you're out there. And that's, and I have no complaints necessarily about that experience. Like, they were extremely fair. You get compensated, you get your stipends and your per diems, and you get paid per episode. And so like, that's really, really great. And, but also me as an adult, like I'm not working. So like, just gotta be smart about that. But so as you're preparing in that spot, like just know that they don't owe you anything, and that it's up to you to just make the best out of it. And then you make friendships, which that's what the cool thing was. So like Aaron and I will either DM each other on social media, or like we'll text each other, and we're talking about collaborating. We had filmed a podcast that we wanted to release, but because like contract clauses, because we got montaged, we technically can't talk about anything that didn't happen on television.
Yeah, sure.
And so like so we weren't able to release that, just to make sure that we stay in their good graces. And so
it sounds like the theme though is that you're encouraging anybody to take radical ownership of their own destiny.
Totally.
Like, because
I think that's what we tell every artist all the time.
Right. Well, yeah.
Right?
But in these shows, it's like
or
you
not.
see a lot of like if you put all your eggs in that basket, right? Or if you go in thinking that they do owe you something, then you're going to be sorely disappointed coming out on the other side. But if you can go in with like just gratitude for the opportunity and the ability to take any experience, whether it's positive or very negative. Like say you go in and you have a horrible experience, you could still, it's within your autonomy and your power to be able to be like, you know what? I learned something from this, and I can apply that to my future and move forward and be able to not be a victim of a circumstance, but be able to use this as fuel and data and knowledge to be better, and just taking radical ownership of everything that happens to you, which I think is obviously what you're doing. I want to ask you, because this was something that was surprising to me when you told us this, when you came home, was that you kind of knew, like when it was your time.
When I was done,
I
felt it that whole week. So like,
why is that?
I honestly, it started off just as a feeling, but with with Adam, the guy they paired me up with, and
for knockouts.
For the knockouts, yeah. Like so, I don't know. I just kind of felt this like
In your gut.
Yeah, I've gone as far as I'm gonna go. I wanted to go one more round. Ideally, I would have loved to have made it to the playoffs and then gone home.
What is the playoff? What do they do on that one?
It's then you just sing by yourself, but everyone because the battles you sing a duet with someone,
right?
And then the knockouts you sing by yourself, but you're up against someone else. And then the playoffs, everyone just does their song, and then at the end, your coach picks like however many he's gonna pick that are gonna go to the lives. And so I would have wanted to make it one, just one more round, but I just kind of knew. I just knew, and it was really funny, but because like. beforehand, before they paired me up with Adam, it's really, really funny. I'd become really, actually, no, I had gotten paired up with Aaron, and then he and I became good buddies. And then during that process, I became good friends with Adam. And then at that moment, on one of the days, I thought they had paired me up with someone else, but they hadn't told me. And then the next day, they switched up the thing, and they had paired me up with him. And I was like, of course they would pair me up with the guy that I'm. Because by that point, I had started giving him voice lessons too. So we're backstage, and he's like, because word had gotten around that I was a vocal coach. And so he's like, hey man, can we work on some vocal stuff? I was like, sure, I'm not doing anything else here, and so we just started hanging out. I was like, play some stuff. And so we started working through some stuff.
So you were coaching your competition.
I didn't know.
That's crazy.
I didn't know.
Does that mean you're a better coach than singer?
Yeah, probably.
Well, and
he's great at both people.
I think people would be surprised to hear this in general, that the contestants were asking you to coach them, because we all see that y'all take voice lessons. They show that behind the scenes footage. While you're there with vocal coaches that are part of the show. So
and they're great.
Yeah.
No, they really are great. But I think it's a
time factor.
It's a time factor, especially in the first round, like some of these coaches are literally coaching all day till like 11 p.m.
Yeah.
And they start at 8 in the morning.
God.
And how much time do they spend with each person?
So they do, I think the first one is an hour.
Oh, wow.
The second one is a half hour, and then 10 minutes, and
so you're not getting, an hour is significant, but other than that, you're not getting a lot of time with them. So
to go into the weeds,
Yeah.
there's mission stuff that they have to get through. So it's just like, you kind of have to do a one-stop shop of like, maybe help with some technique stuff, but really let's help you shape your song and get you in the best place possible for you to have the best audition. And they're amazing.
Yeah.
They're amazing and very, very gracious and very helpful and very kind. But yeah, so it was really funny. So I started coaching him, and then they paired us up, and we've become really, really good friends, and he's a really, like, again, he's just got one of those voices that, like, I just, it's hard to not covet or envy, because it's like, and when we did the podcast with Clark, and we talk about technique as a means to an end, but it's really, really funny because you have all of these people that have like essence in their artistry, but then they're lacking freedom in their technique.
For sure.
And so it's like, but then you have people who have technique who then lack freedom. So it's funny that's like, I don't want to say like to get weird, but it's almost like that the two sides of the coin are the yin yang, because the technique is the key to freedom, but also can be the shackle.
Right.
And so it's trying to figure that out. But I will say that sometimes it depends on the artist. But and you guys there's very few artists who take their technique seriously in the fact that they will keep showing up to lessons, but there's very few ones that you'll see that are like, holy crap, like you've really mastered it, and now you're coming back and just getting tune-ups.
Yes.
Those are few
those
and
are
far.
My favorite.
Those are
my favorites.
I know,
Yeah.
but they're few and far
They
between.
are. They are.
There's, we could name
Once
names.
they think they got it, they think they got it.
But there's few and far. A lot of them just keep coming back, and you just kind of keep fixing bad habits. But they have all this artistry, and so you just pour back into them and try to help them. But it is really interesting. It's just I kind of struggle with that, because it's like that. You look at the Vatican, and you see all these. You look at Michelangelo's David, or you look at all of these paintings, and you're inspired by the fact that it's a technical feat, right? But then you come across, and Catherine and I have had this conversation ad nauseum, and then you have someone who really loves Picasso. And it's like, but you are like in love with like Michelangelo, or like, or like Frank C. Lloyd Wright, you know, this kind of architect who has a very unique kind of look in his architecture versus like the Greek like style of architecture, a lot, you know, and they're both really, really important. And especially with painting, like, you know, people who sell paintings for a bunch of money, and what they do is blotch painting on a wall.
Right.
And for me, there's been a struggle, and I'm still struggling. I'm on that fence because it's just like where we are as a society, they value the blotches of paint more than the skill that it took to be able to, or like you look at those, you know,
it's incredibly true of
the fact that Michael, you know, some of those sculptures, and you see the fine detail of the muscle, or it looks like a veil was placed over someone, and it's carved out of stone, and it's just like, you know, and then you have a block, and then it's like, wow, that really speaks to me.
Oh, right.
I struggle.
I mean, there's memes about this with like art museums and stuff.
I struggle with that, but the fact is that both are valid.
Yeah.
And but I struggle with that because it's just like, you know, I remember telling Catherine, I was just like, you know, I don't know if you ever saw the original Toy Story. You ever see the original Toy? Remember when Buzz Lightyear says like, all those years of training at the academy wasted. Like, that's how I felt, of just like, I have worked for decades to fashion, you know, my voice into something that a lot of people can't do, to then be told that this other thing is more valuable societally. Wow. And
that's rough.
And then to not have the knee-jerk reaction, because I'm just being honest, the knee-jerk reaction is to then like try to say, well, this isn't good. No, it's good, you know, and it has its place, but to also like, you know, not have that weird, you know, kind of a thing, because it's hard to understand for me. It's just like,
same. I think we all agree with that.
You know,
for sure.
They like it, you know. I'm not trying to like to think of like a bearded lady at the circus or something. Like, it's an attraction, and people really like that because it's different, you know, versus, you know, or a magician or like someone else, you know. But again, I'm not trying to like, you know, maybe in some instances, maybe I'm the bearded lady.
Well, you know what I'm thinking? I'm wondering if Shelby could grow a beard. We'd probably get a lot of viewers.
Yeah.
You could be our bearded lady.
The camera did the thing again.
It did the thing again. No. It's okay. These are going, but.
Well, hey, Carlos, thanks for sharing this journey with us, with the world. We, you know, I think I can say on behalf of Shelby and myself, aside from you taking that big risk of getting on that boat and coming to America, we've never been more proud of you.
We're so proud of you.
So proud.
We're excited for what comes of the opportunity to be on the national stage and you know, see the growth that comes. No, not like any of us expect it to be like your shot to stardom, but at the same time, you love a good moment, you know, and enjoy that moment. And we're excited for you. Yeah, it was fun. For people to honestly to hear what we already know about you and your voice, and we'll tell our guests like that come on the show that this is Carlos, our producer. He sings better than all of us, but he's behind the camera. Yeah, and now everybody else gets to hear that, and that's pretty awesome.
So awesome.
We're proud of you.
Thankful. Thank you guys.
Of course.
Appreciate it. Should we awkwardly like end?
Just end.
Do that thing where we don't say goodbye, but we just think about it, and we're like, okay, fade out.
Done. We out.
And
thanks for tuning in to the Vocal Lab podcast. Ready to join the top ranks of the music industry? Don't forget to follow and subscribe for more first-class conversations that make the extraordinary your new ordinary. Until next time, keep striving for your top note.